Georgie. In a little village in New England, there was a little house which belonged to Mr. and Mrs. Whitaker. Up in the attic of this little house, there lived a little ghost. His name was Georgie. Every night at the same time, he gave the loose board on the stairs a little creak and the parlor door just a little squeak. And then Mr. and Mrs. Whitaker knew it was time to go to bed. And Herman the cat, he knew it was time to prowl. And as of Miss Oliver, the owl, she knew it was time to wake up and say, "Hoo, hoo, hoo." And so it went, with everything as it should be, until Mr. Whitaker took it into his head to hammer a nail into the loose board on the stairs, and to oil the hinges of the parlor door. But then Mr. and Mrs. Whitaker, they didn't know when it was time to go to bed anymore. And Herman the cat, he didn't know when it was time to begin to prowl anymore. And as for Miss Oliver the owl, she didn't know when to wake up anymore, and she just kept sleeping. And Georgie, he sat up in the attic and he moped. Pretty soon, though, Georgie decided it was time to find some other house to haunt. He ran to this house, and then he ran to that house. But each house already had a ghost. The only house in the whole village which didn't have a ghost was Mr. Gloam's place, but it was so awfully gloomy. And the big door, it groaned so loudly. And the big stairway, it moaned so loudly. And besides, Mr. Gloam's himself was such a crotchety old man, he was frightening Georgie. So Georgie ran to a cow barn where there lived a harmless cow. But the cow paid no attention to Georgie. She just chewed her cud all the time, and it wasn't a lot of fun. Meanwhile, a lot of time went by, and it rained a good deal. And during the winter, it snowed to beat the band. And out at the cow barn, Georgie was terribly cold and uncomfortable. But what with the dampness from the rain and the coldness from the snow, something happened to that board on the Whitaker stairs and to the hinges on the Whitaker's parlor door. It was Herman who discovered it, and he told Miss Oliver. She woke up with a start. Miss Oliver flew right over to that cow barn to tell Georgie that the board on the stairs was loose again, and the hinges on the parlor door, they were rusty again. But glad tidings for Georgie. He ran home lickety-split. And so, at the same old time, the stairs creaked again, and the parlor door squeaked again. And Mr. and Mrs. Whitaker knew it was time to go to sleep again. And Herman that cat, he knew when to begin to prowl again. And as for Miss Oliver the owl, she knew that it was time to wake up again and say, "Hoo, hoo." Who can make the door go squeak? Who can make the floor go creak? Hoo, hoo, hoo. A friendly little ghost named Georgie. That's who.